All right. So a few months ago, I made a video talking about how retail media networks are basically like the biggest ad scam ever pulled. I introduced a concept called the price to ghost ratio. There's a blog about it on the Genocide Agency website if you want to check it out. But effectively, it measures all of the stores that have had massively declining in-store and online traffic, while at the same time having a massive explosion in costs across the retail media network, because effectively they're just defrauding advertisers and bullying them. So this ratio lets advertisers kind of get a view into the places where their ads are not being seen by anybody, but they're paying a ton for them to go out, and how to clean up this mix. So for reference, on the PGR, the price to ghost ratio, Walmart Connect has a PGR score of 3.4. That's market distortion territory. Their traffic is down 17%, but their CPMs are up 383% since 2020. They're literally charging 380% more for 17% fewer people. Best Buy, PGR of 8.7. Their traffic's down 60%, but they've raised prices by 460% to make up for it. But the craziest part about all this is there's one organization out there that could absolutely destroy retail media networks. The entire ecosystem would just be blown apart. There's one organization with better data, better attribution, better engagement, way better demographics than every single retail media network out there combined. And they're currently making exactly $0 from it. I'm talking about the National Football League. Let me explain why this is the craziest waste of money in modern business history. So in my last video, which I absolutely think you should watch, comment, like, and subscribe on, because I'm selfish, don't want this all to go well. But I broke down how advertisers are paying a ton of money to buy ads on stores where there's zero incrementality and declining traffic. But Walmart, Target, about 200 other retail media networks are running essentially what is a multi-billion-dollar attribution protection racket, fraud scheme, whatever you want to call it. So here's the extremely abbreviated version of it. They encapsulate all of their attribution tracking inside of a walled garden, they call it, because this is on Walmart.com. Do not go into how the traffic gets to Walmart.com or kind of where the users go after. So you discover a product on TikTok, research it on Instagram, compare your prices on Google, and then eventually check out at Walmart. Walmart takes 100% credit for that across and charges the brands a rack ton for their ability to drive that purchase. It's called last click attribution. It really is kind of hot horse shit when it comes to retail media networks. And it continues to get better or worse, depending on your perspective. While Walmart is claiming record advertising effectiveness, their website traffic is down 4% month over month. Best Buy's traffic down 60% from 2020, and Target down 19% in stores and 31% digitally. So these platforms are losing audiences, raising prices, and reporting record ad revenues. The math only works if you're lying about the attribution, which they are extensively. That's where the PGR comes in. So this price to ghost ratio measures the relationship between the prices and the actual engaged audience delivery. Anything above a 3, severe market distortion. Walmart's at a 3.4, Target 4.1, Best Buy 8.7, which is basically admitting you're running a Ponzi scheme. But here's the thing, and this is where it gets really interesting. Retail media networks do have one legitimate advantage over traditional digital advertising. They have closed loop attribution. When somebody buys something at a Walmart store or after seeing a Walmart ad, Walmart can track that theoretically. The problem is their traffic's collapsing. So that closed loop continues to get smaller and smaller every day. Unless they supplement it with paid traffic from TikTok and Instagram, which is how they're driving it. So now imagine an organization with incredibly stable, growing traffic, 40 to 60% engaged impressions instead of 15 to 25% that retail media networks see. Perfect. Closed loop attribution, from ad exposure straight through to purchase, demographic data that would make every retailer in America completely jealous, zero cannibalization concerns because they're not competing in retail, and most importantly, zero revenue from this opportunity currently. That, my friends, is the National Football League. So let me paint you a picture of what the NFL has that Walmart doesn't. 18 million people attend NFL games every single season. That's 18 million human beings who walk through the turnstiles, who sit in assigned seats for over 3 hours every week, and quite literally are the definition of a captive audience. You can't scroll past an ad when you're sitting in section 203, row 12, seat 7, watching the Jumbotron between plays. Compare that to retail media. When was the last time you willingly spent 3 hours inside of a Walmart? The last time you actually sat down, relaxed, and totally paid attention to your surroundings inside of a Target? You didn't. Nobody does. Walmart's average in-store visit time is 29 minutes, and you're spending 28 of those minutes trying to find the thing you actually came in for and avoiding all of the Walmartians and the people trying to tell you about DirecTV and your phone plan. The engagement rates really do tell the story. Traditional retail media, 15 to 25% are actually engaged impressions. In stadium for the NFL, it's 40 to 60%. And the kicker here is the NFL fan is actually emotionally invested in the outcome of what's going on around them. 57% of diehard NFL fans say they're married to their team. It's not a metaphor. It's what they literally say in surveys. They have 10 to 70-year relationships with their teams. It's generational loyalty. If their father was a Cowboys fan, it's likely they're a Cowboys fan. I am a huge Baltimore Ravens fan, and all 3 of my girls absolutely love the Baltimore Ravens. So they've learned over time from me, and I have passed it on. So when was the last time somebody really said that about Walmart? Like, kids, we're going out to shop at Walmart today because this is where we've always shopped as a family. This is part of our family tradition. That would be insane. Walmart is completely interchangeable and honestly not a great retail experience. The Baltimore Ravens are not. So here's where it gets absolutely bonkers. So there's a number of NFL clubs, the Ravens, the Cowboys, and others, that have already effectively built the infrastructure for perfect attribution without actually realizing what they built. So if you look at AT&T Stadium, it has 550 digital screens throughout the venue, 550 with dynamic pricing menus at each concession stand that update in real time based on the game situations. They know exactly who's sitting where. They know exactly who's sitting where because of ticketing data. They have the credit card data, the transactions on both ticket and in-house, in-venue transactions, and they have a huge amount of mobile app engagement data. So this is what perfect attribution look like. And I mean perfect. This is not Walmart's we'll take credit for everything because everybody shopped here at some point attribution. This is 7:14, a Pepsi ad displays on the Jumbotron. Cowboys know it ran. They know exactly for how long, and they know what's happening in the game. They know the score. These Pepsi ads a minute later run on the concourse outside of a section. They know who walked past it because they have foot traffic cameras. And at 7:22, when I walk by the concession stand and go buy a Pepsi, they know exactly to register it to my seat, section 203, row 12, seat 7, purchases a Pepsi, concession stand C14. It's not last click attribution. It's true multi-touch attribution that's literally frame by frame, second by second, and actually provable that it's causal, not just relationship driven. Walmart can tell you that somebody bought something after seeing an ad, maybe. If you believe their attribution model, which you probably shouldn't, because their model is really trust us, bro, or we'll 86 your products off of the shelves. The NFL actually can tell you, you saw this specific ad at this specific timestamp while this was happening in the game. It made you take this specific action and make this specific purchase 8 minutes and 14 seconds later at this location. You've got attribution accuracy, over 90%, where maybe at best retail media networks are touching on 40% if we're being generous. and why it matters. True incrementality. I talked about this in my last video, but retail media networks struggle with the incrementality question. A lot of advertising channels face it, but retail media networks massively struggle with it because your intent is to purchase when you go into Walmart. So did that ad actually cause the purchase? Would it have happened anyway because you were there at Walmart? They can't answer that question. Honestly, nobody reasonably can, because decision trees and how people make purchases is so different. Now, as somebody, Walmart can't really answer that question, not honestly, because somebody might have bought that Pepsi regardless of the ad. They came to Walmart to buy 30 other things anyway, and Pepsi might have just been the most convenient one or the only one left. But in an NFL stadium, nobody's buying a $9 Pepsi unless they actively want one. And if you can prove that they saw your ad 8 minutes before buying it and this pattern starts to repeat across thousands of transactions across, 30 different stadiums across the country, then you've got actual incrementality. So if we were to plug in all of these metrics into the PGR to get a score for the NFL, what would we be looking at? So a theoretical retail media network for the NFL. Let's say we're going to go with a flat CPM of $45, premium, but justified. We know it's a premium product. Traffic, stable to growing, 18 million attendance, millions of app users, millions of fantasy players, all of the engagement on social media and others. Engagement, 40 to 60%, easily. An engaged CPM here, $58 to $113. You end up with a PGR score of 0.6 to 0.89. That's in the very, very healthy range. For reference, TikTok is at a 0.42. YouTube Shorts, 0.48. The NFL would be competitive with the best performing social media platforms and absolutely demolish every single retail media network out there, from Amazon to Walmart. Remember, Walmart, their PGR sitting at a 3.4, Target 4.1, Best Buy 8.7. The NFL would have the potential to sit well below 1, close to a 0.6. They would have by far the best PGR of any advertising platform except for TikTok or YouTube Shorts, coming in better than Meta. Unlike those platforms, the NFL isn't competing for your attention with an infinite scroll. They're appointment viewing already year-round for fans. And for many, you're sitting in the stadium to actually consume their content live and in person. All right, let's talk about the money, because that's where it gets truly offensive with how much the NFL is leaving on the table, which is weird because I know this is rare for the NFL to leave huge buckets of money on the table. So, 18 million stadium attendees per season. Average spending per person, $77 on concessions. That's 1.4 billion in that is 1 trackable, attributable in-stadium purchases every single year. But that's just the beginning, because retail media network doesn't just monetize in venue transactions. It monetizes 550 screens at AT&T Stadium, with an average CPM sitting around $45. Potential revenue there, $1.8 billion. When you split that up across teams, mobile app advertising, billions of active users per team, billions of active fantasy players as well, push notifications, branded content integrations, in-app ads. Potential revenue here, another $1 billion that we're just sitting on here. Don't even start on if the NFL actually broke away from the Fanatics monopoly and own their e-commerce merchandise platforms. Won't even project that ridiculous billions of number. And then additionally, if you look across their streaming and connected TVs, huge amounts of programmatic advertising that they're able to deliver during streaming games. Right there, another $2 billion likely in potential revenue. Stack on some of the legacy media. You've got your email and SMS. They're massively undermonetized. Here, this is a direct response channel for a lot of brands that they're looking for. And then additionally, programmatic extensions, retargeting NFL fans across other platforms using their first party and zero party data to reach fans everywhere, possibly with a plug into Snowflake to enrich data. But right there, likely another $1 billion in revenue that the NFL is sitting on. So if you add it all up across, at the low end, you're looking at about 3.9 to at the high end, about 8 billion in annual revenue. And that's on top of the existing 6 billion in traditional sponsorships. And this is where my middle schooler gets excited. So they're sitting on a current book of 6 billion with the potential to add 7 billion more. So they get that perfect 6-7. And they're generating exactly $0 from it. So per team, 8.4 billion divided by 32 teams becomes 106 million in additional revenue to each group. With 75% margins, which are fairly standard in retail media, that's 80 million per pure profit per team. The current NFL salary cap is 255 million per team. This single revenue stream would cover 31% of every team's salary cap. Again, for the people in the back, the NFL is ignoring a revenue stream that could pay for 1/3 of every single team's roster in additive revenue. And where would the NFL rank among current retail media networks? Let me tell you. In first place, you have Amazon with 56 billion. Second place, distant, Walmart Connect 4.4 billion. The NFL out of the gate, let's say, with the potential for 3.4 billion. Kroger then and Instacart following at 1.8, 1.5 billion. And Target's round out expected to get close, but still sitting at about $700 million in sixth place. The NFL would instantly become the third largest retail media network without having to sell a single physical product. They'd move ahead of Kroger, Instacart, Target, purely on strength of fan data and engagement. But the window's closing pretty quickly on them. The action part here is in the next 18 to 24 months. The NBA knows this, the MLB knows this, and even European football clubs are already starting to experiment with this. La Liga, Bundesliga, and the Premier League, they're all watching what's happening with retail media networks and seeing like, we look real similar to these. Why aren't we doing this too? First movers in every advertising market get disproportionate advantages. So what you're going to see is the leagues that move early here are going to get the CPMs that are closer to $65 than $45. Margins, 85%. And you end up with super easy advertiser acquisition because there is a massive appetite for this. You don't think that brands would like to move their dollars away from much smaller, let's say much smaller grocery stores and into NFL retail media networks and communicating with fans in a much more authentic and marketable way. I think it would happen quickly. They would also create the category, which also helps them from a market positioning standpoint. The later entrants who are going to come in 27 and 28, they're going to see CPMs closer to $30. They're going to have compression based on that. All the leagues are going to start following. You'll see a bunch of compression caused by that competition, except for the super premiums. Margins, 60 to 70% because their tech costs, they're not amortized. And so those are going to continue to kind of, that compression is going to drive it down there. Advertiser acquisition, it's going to be a lot more difficult, and the market positioning really does become commoditized, where this becomes part of a larger offering rather than kind of that new offering to push out into the market. So the first sports leagues to launch here are going to command premium retail pricing because advertisers want access to an untapped audience. They'll experiment, they'll overpay. They want to learn what works quick and fast. But by the time every sports league has one, though, it kind of becomes a bit of a race to the bottom, right? CPMs start to compress, the margins will shrink, and that massive opportunity becomes table stakes for existence. Walmart Connect launched in 2019 First year CPM, 40 to 50 bucks. 2024, after every retailer had launched a competing network, their standard placements are 25 to 35 bucks. They're making more total revenue because of the scale, the targeting, and the packaging of omni-channel garbage into these large bundles. The NFL has a narrow window here, basically to be the Walmart Connect of sports, define a category, set the pricing expectations, and lock in early mover advantage. After that, they're just going to be another player fighting for scraps with the NBA and the MLB here in the US. And it's not really hypothetical competition. The NBA is already exploring this, and the MLB is going to outsource this to an ad tech company. Premier League has already hired McKinsey to come in and study it, which should be good for the NFL because McKinsey will definitely give them a bad plan, but the window is closing on whether the NFL will move. And so here, comparing if you directly compare the NFL to Walmart and Target, the two retail media networks that supposedly have their shit together, because that's where, the NFL's advantage becomes almost offensive, and not like in a good NFL way, like unjustifiable for Walmart and Target. Traffic stability. Walmart, they're down 17% year over year. Cyber 5, 23 to 24. Target, down 19% in store and 31% digitally. NFL, they're flat, maybe a slight decline, but their per game attendance is the highest ever. Nobody's abandoning the NFL for Amazon. Everybody's abandoning retail for Amazon. The NFL's foot traffic is stable because you can't stream that atmosphere. The stadium experience cannot be replicated on your couch. People tried. It doesn't work. Walmart's median demographics also don't line up. Median income, 55K. Value-focused shoppers. Target, median income, 65K. Suburban families. NFL, median income, $76,000. 34% have a net worth north of $250. The NFL's audience isn't just stable, they're actually rich or richer, and that's going to matter to advertisers. For engagement, Walmart averages 29 minutes per visit, mostly task-focused. Walmart, 41 minutes per visit, browsing included. NFL, minimum 3 hours of captive, emotionally invested fandom every Sunday. Additionally, you have hours during the week consuming on other platforms. The difference is you go to Walmart to buy paper towels. You go to an NFL game to experience something. That emotional state matters a lot when it comes to advertising effectiveness. Brands know this. The other part is attribution certainty. This has been really what has driven the growth of advertising in digital spaces. Walmart, they have 40, 50% confidence in a generous world. 40 to 50%, maybe 55% because of their the Roundel app, and the Target has slightly higher confidence with 40 to 55%. The NFL, easy 97% because they have ticketing, turnstile, credit card data, and merchandise data coming back from Fanatics. The NFL can actually prove their ads work. Walmart has to argue that their ads might work, and if you argue too hard, your product's going on the bottom of the shelf. That's the difference between a $60 and a $20 CPM. So in market power, the NFL has a huge amount of advantage here. The NFL doesn't have any sort of difficulty with vendor extortion. When Walmart tells a brand like, hey, you have to buy on a retail media network or we're going to move your stuff off our shelves, that's what the mob does, right? That's a protection racket. When the NFL says, hey, if you want to advertise during the Cowboys fans to reach Cowboy, that's just regular targeted advertising. They don't have to leverage advertisers to abuse them. They're simply selling access to an audience. That's clean revenue with, very low ethical complications that plague retail media networks currently. When you look across customer lifetime value, untouchable. Both Walmart and Target, it's totally transactional, right? Do you have the thing I want? Is it cheaper than the other place I want? If not, I'm out. NFL, a ride or die. You're looking at 60, 70-year relationships that people have with teams. So if I were Roger Goodell tomorrow morning, I would do this immediately. First, call the Jonas Agency and have them help you set up a retail media network. But in all seriousness, You need to partner, not build. Building proprietary ad tech from scratch is going to cost $15 million and take 2 years. Partnering with an existing platform, beat them up on the revenue share. Take 3 to 6 months to be live and in market. You're ready for the playoffs, bro. Amazon has the tech, they have the DSP, and they have all the advertiser relationships, and they're pretty well plugged in with the NFL already. Really, the NFL would just need to integrate their first-party data, ticketing app, all that stuff into the existing infrastructure. It may already live there in an AWS infrastructure. The revenue share sucks, right? But it's better than zero. And in year 3, you'll understand the business fully and you can bring it back in-house. Makes it easy. Step 2. This is where it's going to be. The NFL's already begun, but lean in harder to creators. Start really going wider, not just traditional sports, more of the YouTubers, more on TikTok and Instagram. Reach more of that critical 18 to 34 audience than ESPN, Fox, CBS combined. They authentically love football. You're not asking them to sell out. You're simply asking them to integrate some NFL content into what they're already doing. Give them some behind the scenes access. Let them create content the way they want around games and integrate their content into the mobile apps and into the stadium, into that experience there. And it's going to be amazing. Retail media networks are starting to discover that UGC performs way better than all their professional videos. Walmart literally is just stealing TikTok videos and reselling them to brands. Don't do it. Commission your fans' content, pay them, give them access, monetize their reach, and they're going to go to the moon for you. And then start a 5-team pilot, right? There are five teams that easily fit into this, having kind of the largest market share and easy to turn fan bases. Run a full test in stadium, mobile, email, programmatic, and layering in that attribution side. And then document it all, build out your case studies, right? You can then go in and tell Coca-Cola exactly how many gallons of Coke were sold right after their ad ran. Show Verizon how many more people download their app or sign up to get a new phone plan from those ads running in stadium. On top of these, you'll have aggressive targets that'll easily be hit here. But the NFL really doesn't have to have a let's see what happens. They can set aggressive targets and hit them because they know where the brand is going. They have every advantage here: better data, engagement, attribution, and demographics. There's no reason they shouldn't match or exceed Walmart's numbers within 3 years. So overall, the NFL has 18 million captive audience, this huge engagement rate, all of the attribution in the world, stable traffic, better demographics and median income and generational loyalty. And they're not currently monetizing it fully. I believe they'll come around on it because it'll be critical. Now, the NFL has the next 18 to 24 months to bring this in and see if they can compress it. So, Roger, I know you watch every video, but if you don't get a chance to call this week, reach out, send a message. We'll be able to hop on and we can get this $3.4 billion of resale media up and running for you guys ahead of the Super Bowl. Have a good one. Talk to you later.